The trail did not forgive the weak. It stretched for miles beneath a burning sky, a ribbon of dirt, cutting through unforgiving land where even grown men learned to fear the silence. Wagons had passed through here for decades, some reaching salvation, others becoming graves without markers. On this morning, a small group moved fast. Too fast. A wagon creaked ahead, its wheels groaning like an old man in pain. Horses snorted, restless. No one looked back except the girl. She could not have been more than 8 years old. Her dress was torn at the hem, stained with dust and old blood. One shoe was gone, the other barely clung to her foot. Her hair, once neatly braided, hung loose, tangled, and matted with sweat. But it was her eyes that told the truth. They were tired, not sleepy tired, not the kind that comes after a long day of play. This was the tiredness of hunger, of fear, of knowing that the people walking away were her last chance. "Please," she whispered. Her voice was swallowed by the wind. The wagon did not stop. A woman sat near the back, gripping the side rail so tightly her knuckles were white. She heard the girl. She had heard her all morning. But she turned her face away, tears streaking lines through the dust on her cheeks. "We can't," the woman murmured. "We barely have enough for our own." A man beside her spat into the dirt. "She's not ours." That was the end of it. The wagon rolled on. The girl stood alone in the middle of the trail, watching the dust cloud swallow them whole. The sound of the wheels faded. The horses disappeared. And then nothing. No voices. No footsteps. Only the wind and the endless land. She waited. Children always wait. They believe adults will come back. Minutes passed. Then longer. The sun climbed higher. Her lips cracked. Her throat burned. She sank to her knees, pressing her palms into the dirt as if the ground itself might answer her. "My mama said don't cry," she whispered to herself, rocking slightly. She said God sees. But God was silent out here. The trail was a place where prayers went unanswered. She didn't know about the wolves that sometimes followed wagons, didn't know how quickly night could kill, didn't know that men had died on this same stretch of land with guns in their hands. She only knew she was alone. A shadow passed over her. For a moment she thought it was death. She looked up. A horse stood before her, tall, black, powerful. Its saddle was worn but well kept. The reins were leather, darkened by years of use. This was no settler's horse. This was a cowboy's mount. Then she saw the boots, dusty, heavy, stopping inches from her hands. She raised her eyes slowly, afraid of what she might find. The man standing there looked like the land itself, hard, weathered, and unyielding. His hat cast a shadow over sharp eyes that had seen too much. A long coat hung from his shoulders. A revolver rested easily at his side, not as a threat but as a fact. This was Caleb Hargrove. Everyone in the territory knew the name. The richest cowboy in the West. Owner of thousands of acres. A man who bought land others bled for. A man rumored to have no heart left to break. He looked down at the girl. She flinched. Men like him didn't stop for orphans. Caleb Hargrove had ridden past dead men before without slowing his horse. Yet here he was. He studied her the way a rancher studies a wounded animal. Not cruelly, but carefully, taking in the bare feet, the shaking hands, the eyes that were too old for her face. "Where's your people?" he asked. His voice was low, steady. She swallowed. They went on. He followed the trail with his gaze, seeing the fading wagon marks, already half erased by the wind. "They left you," he said. Not a question. She nodded once. That was when something in his expression changed, just slightly. A tightening in the jaw, a shadow crossing his eyes. The girl hugged herself, bracing for anger or indifference. Instead, the cowboy did something no one expected. He dismounted, slowly, deliberately. The wealthiest man in the territory knelt in the dirt, so his eyes were level with hers. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, then whispered, "Lila." Caleb Hargrove looked at the empty trail again, at the sky, and the land that had taken so much from so many. Then he made a choice that would shake the frontier, a choice that would rewrite both their lives, a choice no one would believe when they heard it. "All right, Lila," he said quietly. "You're not dying on this trail." And with those words, the future changed. Caleb Hargrove did not look back at the trail. He lifted Lila onto his horse as if she weighed nothing, wrapping his coat around her small shoulders. She clutched the leather with shaking hands, afraid the moment might vanish if she let go. They rode toward his ranch as the sun dipped low. No one spoke. Some choices didn't need words. That night, for the first time in weeks, Lila slept indoors. Real walls, a real bed, food that did not need to be begged for. She ate slowly, as if afraid it might be taken away. Caleb watched from the doorway. He had buried his wife years ago, buried a child who never learned to walk. He had sworn never to care again, because caring had cost him everything. But the girl laughed in her sleep, and something long dead inside him stirred. The next morning, the same wagon passed the ranch. The people looked away when they saw the girl standing on the porch, clean and safe, holding Caleb's hand. They did not recognize her at first, until she smiled. Caleb's voice carried across the yard, calm and final. "She's mine now. No threat, no anger, just truth." The richest cowboy rode the hardest lands and owned the widest horizons, but his greatest legacy would never be his cattle or his gold. It would be the orphan girl everyone abandoned, and the man who chose her when no one else did. The end.